we're joined by Kent from Like a Storm. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great, thanks, man. How are you?
On tour with who now?
Who are we on tour with right now?
Yes.
We're out with Hell Yeah, Vinnie Paul's band, Hell Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Chad and the boys, you're
exactly.
I'm sure rocking up a storm out there.
It's good, man. The shows have been insane every night.
Yeah, great band, great bill. Well, I know you guys hail from New Zealand, and you are part of a band with your two brothers. You know, tell us a little bit about how you started out, who your musical heroes are, and how the band got going.
Well, I think for myself, personally, the time that I got turned on to rock music, Dad had a cassette tape of Chuck Berry. This is when I was a kid, you know, and I thought the guitar playing was so awesome. And then I discovered, you know, Guns N' Roses and Jimi Hendrix and Nirvana, Nevermind, and Metallica Black Album. And then I was like, oh, man, this is real rock music, you know. So once I heard that and I kind of started playing the band with my friends when I was a teenager, it's like a switch flipped in me, and it was like, it was never any other choice that that's what I was going to do for a career for the rest of my life, you know, whether it was going to be successful or otherwise. You know, I just loved it. I found my calling, you know. And my brothers, Chris and Matt, were playing in two other bands. We actually never played in bands together when we were younger. We all had our own bands, but I kind of recognized that we all had that same passion. And so I joined Chris's band. Chris is the lead singer and guitarist, and I joined his band. And then we asked Matt to join our band. And then at the time that Matt joined, we were like, okay, New Zealand's a beautiful place to live, amazing place to grow up, but not a great place to tour because it's just not big enough geographically. So, you know, this is either going to become our main thing or it's going to become a hobby. And so we decided that we all knew we wanted it to be our main thing in life. So we packed our bags and moved up to North America.
And how did you choose Vancouver as the base?
We chose Vancouver because we're Canadian citizens. Our dad's Canadian, and frankly, Vancouver was the warmest part of Canada. And then also, we chose it because it was on the west, and a dream of ours was to go down to LA and make a record. And so we were able to do that. We made a record at Bay Shooting Studios and in the Valley, and we were able to just sort of come and go from Vancouver over a couple of years and make that.
Well, I know the city well, and Vancouver's a beautiful place, and again, you're on the West Coast, and you're able to hit Seattle, San Francisco, LA, and all that right on the 5 freeway. So it makes it a nice entry to America. Now,
a lot of the I-5,
what is it? Obviously, your parents were very supportive of you playing music, and that everybody, you know, was playing. But what is it about playing with your brothers? Because I know there's that. Obviously, it's in your blood, like Hell Yeah says, blood brothers. But you know, is it? You also have that sibling rivalry, you know, that has been famous in the Kinks or Oasis and other bands. So, how do you avoid that? And what are the benefits of playing with your real brothers?
Well, the benefits are huge. I mean, for a start, you never need to question anyone's passion or desire or motivations because you all came from the same place. You know, you all had the same upbringing, you all have the same values, the same ways of treating people with respect and things like that. So you never have any of those sorts of issues that you can sometimes see in other bands. Musically, it's awesome because, I don't know, you just seem to be in sync. Like when I look at our hands, like we're all strumming in the same pattern, and it's all locked in, and we've never even practiced it, you know, and we can sit down and play a tune. You know, we used to go into bars or friends would have parties, and there'd be drums, bass, and guitar, or 3 guitars or whatever, and we'd just sit down, and, you know, if somebody can pick out a couple of chords of a song, you all jump in, and you can play the song from start to finish. So you get that sort of chemistry that you can find with other people. Obviously, people do find it and make bands, but we've found that it was just there between the 3 of us. As far as the sibling rivalry goes, I don't think there really is any. I think maybe when you first start out in any band, everybody's kind of learning their place and, you know, what they bring. But we've always just had a really open thing because we're producers. We also produce our music, and we engineer a lot of it, and we mix a lot of it, and we write our own music. So So it's always just been that any song is just an open canvas for anybody to bring anything they can to it. So we have songs where sometimes a guy was really involved in the drums and the lyrics, or sometimes a guy was really involved in the guitar parts, and it's not necessarily assigned to what each of us do, because we all started playing piano when we were young kids. Our mum made us do that and we hated it, but it gave us the music fundamentals. We went and picked up other instruments like guitars, bass, singing, stuff like that. You'd grasp, the fundamentals of playing music. So there's no rivalry, because we just know it's just everybody bringing the best ideas they have, and the best ideas are the ones that stick.
Sure. And what's the songwriting process like within the band? Does someone come in with a riff or idea and you start building it out, or how do most of your songs come together?
Yeah, it can do. It can be somebody has a riff, it can be somebody has a chorus, it can be somebody has like a full song pretty much fleshed out. But as I say, like, they're all kind of, they're all open to people making changes and suggestions, because we just want the best music that the band can put out, so there's no ego involved. And that was one of the things that we learned when we moved up here and worked with some really great producers and talked to a lot of great bands, is just to put the ego aside and just focus on making sure the music is the absolute best that can come out under your name. So usually by the time a song's done, it has everybody's fingerprints all over it. But, Love the Way You Hate Me was a riff and chorus that I had, but I didn't have any verse. We changed a lot of the lyrics. The didgeridoo idea came after the fact. The breakdown and the building up of the drums, none of that was there. So it's just it's hard to explain, because it's not like a rigid process. It's pretty organic, and it just I don't know, it just kind of flows, and by the end of it, you sit and look back on it and go, yeah, okay, everybody kind of chipped in here and there to make the best music we could. There's no sort of like roles or rules or anything.
Sure. So it can really come from everywhere. And I know you guys covered the Coolio song, Gangster's Paradise. How did that come about?
Well, so we were writing the music for this new album, Awaken the Fire, and Chris and Matt, I guess, had gone to the movies, and they had seen Gangster's Paradise come on through the speakers, and as they were walking back to the car, they said to one another, a band could do a pretty awesome, like, heavy version of that song. And then I guess they realized that, hey, we are a band. Because sometimes you always think, oh, it'd be cool if somebody did that. And then you think, well, hang on, why don't we do it? You don't always necessarily think that, you don't always think of yourself first as the people to do it. So then they started playing around with it. And it was funny, because I went into the studio one day and I pull open the sessions to see what they've been working on. Because sometimes I'll work in the day and they'll work at night. And I see Gangster's Paradise. And I was like, Gangster's Paradise? What the hell? Have we written a new song called Gangster's Paradise, or is somebody playing around with the Coolio one? And so that's kind of how it started. So then we rebuilt the music, and then the funniest thing about that was, of course, none of us rap, so it took a lot of trial and error with the melodies to kind of make it flow and, turn it into a song.
That's great. Now, I know you've had the opportunity to tour with the guys from Creed, and that also led to you touring with Alter Bridge, the guys from Creed, without Scott. What's the relationship, with that, and what did you learn, from those guys?
Well, we wouldn't be where we are without those guys. I mean, and we look up to those guys as mentors. I mean, obviously Creed was a huge band, and our producer at the time was working on their reunion album in 2009, and he phones us up one day and he says, hey, nothing's confirmed, but I think I might have got you guys a Creed tour. And we're thinking, what the hell? At that point, we were about to go out and do a club tour to a few hundred people. And we thought that was awesome, coming from New Zealand to travel around the US doing a club tour was awesome. But he said, no, yeah, I'm working on their album, and I played Mark Tremonti and their manager some of your stuff, and they loved it. And they said, well, hey, we're looking for a band for this new tour that they had coming out. And so, sorry, excuse me, we got the green light on it. And our first ever US show was to like 15,000 people in Pittsburgh, in a big outdoor shed. So it was nuts. I just remember pulling up the back, there was like 9 buses and 10 trucks. I mean, the sort of thing you just never see coming from New Zealand. And we hit it off with the guys from day one. They were the guys in the band. All 4 of them were super cool to us. And about halfway through the tour, Mark came up to us in Hartford, Connecticut, and said, "Hey, we've loved having you guys out. We're actually extending this tour, and the next one we're going out with Stain, but we'd love to have you guys on it if you'd love to." And so we were like, "Oh, hell yeah!" So it was crazy, man. Our first 3 months of touring in the US, I think we'd been to every state. We played every major arena or outdoor amphitheater. It was crazy. And then from then, we kept them, we exchanged numbers, we kept in touch with them. Mark's a really classy guy in terms of anything he can help you with, any advice he can give you, and we've looked to those guys a lot. Mark, suggested the guy Elvis Baskett that we used to mix our new record because he'd done Tremonti Project, and we keep in touch with those guys a lot. We've been out with Ultra Bridge. We've also been out with Scott Stapp for his solo stuff. So all of those guys have always done everything they could to us, and they've always, they've said, you guys are a great band, and you guys are going to get bigger, and for a bigger band to be there to say that to you, it just means it gives you so much confidence. It means so much. So we say to Mark all the time, we wouldn't be here without you. We wouldn't have the fans that we have without you. You were able to support us in doing the things that we're doing now. So. And then, of course, musically, they're just amazing to watch. If you've ever been to an Ultra Bridge concert,
Sure, and of course, Miles Kennedy's the singer of Slash's band, so you've got some amazing lineage there.
Absolutely. And I think, it's kind of like, it's like getting to go and study under the masters, when you go and do a tour with a band like that. Well, it's the same with Hell Yeah, and now you get to watch Chad and Vinnie Paul and the rest of the guys every night, and it's like a master class every night, and what it takes to kick ass as a band,
Well, that's what I was going to ask you is what advice do you have for the bands coming up? Because like you say, you've had these great mentors, you guys work closely together, every day you're trying to learn and grow, but what advice do you give to the young bands that aspire to do what you want to do? What do they need to concentrate on?
Well, the advice that got us to where we were, that we were lucky enough to get, was the first thing is when you're writing your songs, don't get attached to the parts that you wrote, because at the end of the day, it's about the best songs that you can put out as a band. It's not about your own personal ego. And then the next thing is to get the best quality recording you can of what you think are your best songs. And that worked for us, obviously, because it meant, that opportunity was there, that our producer was in the studio with the guys from Creed, and he was able to play them a good quality recording of what we thought were our best songs, and that got them to tour. And sometimes bands don't do that, and they'll rely on playing live, but if you rely on playing live, then people have to be there to see you, whereas if you've got some recorded music, that can be spreading your name while you're somewhere totally different. So to get your best songs you can, and then get the best quality recording you can. And these days you can do, we learned how to record ourselves. We were interested in it, but it always kind of blows my mind that bands aren't interested in it, because it's like, why would you not want to learn how to do this so you can have the flexibility and freedom to create good recordings whenever and wherever you want? And then, so that covers the recording side, and then the live side is like, you just got to play and play and play and play and play. And, when I look at how far our band's progressed as a live act from when we started, and we were doing, maybe 1 gig a month, to now where we're doing 200 shows a year, there's no substitute for that. So, and then if you have the combination of those two things, if you have a great live show and you have a great sounding recording of some great songs, well, that's the best shot you can give yourself,
And I know you guys have been lucky enough to play some of these festivals, and you got Rock on the Range and Rocklahoma and stuff like that coming up. What is the difference between playing a club when the fans are right in your face, and then when you're at a festival arena, especially where there's a barrier and people are a ways away? How do you treat that differently? I know it's the same set, but how do you gear up or alter that?
You're right. The energy kind of hits you differently. When it's a big place, the energy it's kind of like you throw it out there and it bounces off the back and comes back at you like a wave from the crowd. Whereas when you're in a club, I mean, you can get right down, and we do. You can get right down in the faces of the people in the front row, and you're just both kind of rocking out, and you can really channel off that immediacy. But the club, you get that it's that intimate kind of energy, and it's really electric. But then when it's bigger, I mean, I remember the first few times we did them, and I just couldn't get over the noise. And the best way I could describe it was like it came like it was rolling in like a wave, like it would come, you know, from the people up in the grass area and then down the seats, and so you just throw it out, you know, hey, you know, they're having a good time tonight, and then it would just come bouncing back to you. And of course you don't get that in a club because it's a much more sort of immediate environment. But I mean, they're both awesome.
Well, that's great. I know you guys are road dogs. You're doing it big. You know what? Hell yeah! You got the new album with Century Media. We're very excited to help spread the word. You know, Awaken the Fire is a great record. So I appreciate your time, Kent. Thank you so much. Give our best to your brothers, and can't wait to see you back here in California.
Yeah, man, me too. I mean, it's pretty cold here, so I'd love to get back to California.
Cool.